Hello BookTube, this is Kelly with Books I'm Not Reading, and I'm here today to talk to you about a buddy read I recently did of The Old Curiosity Shop by Charles Dickens. And I was fortunate enough to read this book with the one and only Jo Smith, a very famous booktuber who does not have a channel, much to everyone's dismay. But she has agreed to post her thoughts and comments down below, and I will do my very best to highlight or pin those to the top so that you can see what she thought about the book. One of the things I want to say first of all is that when I joined BookTube, I was surprised at how many people don't like Dickens. So if you are one of those people, please let me know what you've read and why you don't like Dickens down below. I had the pleasure of a year kind of reading project that Jason and I did, and we read Bleak House, The Pickwick Papers, and Little Dorrit. And between those three books and A Christmas Carol, Dickens has definitely become one of my favorite authors. This book is my least favorite Dickens, which I know Paul from PK's Books, this is his favorite Dickens, and so we've had some interesting discussions on Voxer about that. But, and he made some really good points to me about the book, which was good. But I even though I say it's my least favorite Dickens, like, it's still better than a ton of things out there. I mean, I'd still give it 4 stars on Goodreads. It's almost like I have a separate rating scale for Dickens. And then there's like everybody else, Dickens and Austen and things like that. I mean, yeah, I hold them, I'm expecting so much from them already. So, anyway, unfortunately, I am going to spoil this book. So if you plan on reading it, if it has not been spoiled for you and you, you don't want it spoiled, like, you need to stop watching this video right now. Thank you so much for joining. But yeah, I have to talk about the ending of this book. So here we go. I don't even know how long this book has been spoiled for me. Years, decades. Because one of the most famous stories about Dickens in America, and he came to America multiple times, and people gobbled up the serialized versions of his novels just as much as they did in the UK. And there's a very, very famous story about the last part of this book reaching America, which of course, you know, he couldn't just email it off and have it printed here. It had to come by boat. And so everyone in England already knew what happened at the end of this book, while people in America were waiting anxiously for it. And when the last edition, the last part of this book was coming to America, like, people actually went to the docks and waited and yelled out to the people on the ship, "Does little Nell live? Is little Nell alive? Is she okay?" You know, because they cared about that character so much, which is really beautiful. But it also means, you know, the answer is no. She does not make it. And one of the things that Paul said to me that I thought was really perceptive was that knowing that probably made me care about her as a character less, which I think is probably true. And when you read it knowing that, like, all of the words that describe her experience, I mean, even just sitting by the dying embers of the fire, I mean, it's almost like a little heavy-handed. Like, I'm surprised anybody thought that she was going to make it, but, you know, Dickens is always full of surprises. So that really colored kind of my perception of her, and I was not vested in her as a character. But she's not the only one in this book that I wasn't really, my whole heart, like, wasn't involved with the characters the way they have in some other Dickens books, like The Pickwick Papers, which I think anyone who's read that obviously knows like the problems and the flaws with that book. However, by the end of the book, between Pickwick and Sam Weller, like I am totally with them. I am 100% just in love with them both, and I never had that kind of experience with this book. There were some great characters. Kit, I think, is a fantastic character. I haven't read Oliver Twist, but I imagine Kit is a little bit like the Artful Dodger, maybe, with a little more honesty, a little more integrity, maybe. And there's another character, Swiveler, and there's a little serving girl, and definitely I think both Joe and I were rooting for those three characters the most. The other thing that we were surprised about is that even though this is called The Old Curiosity Shop, hardly any of the book takes place there. And I think what Dickens was trying to do was trying to give us, and look at this cover, like, right? Like, wouldn't you love to read a book set something like that? But nonetheless, they leave the Old Curiosity Shop quite early in the book. And I think Dickens was trying to give us sort of his mental curiosity shop of characters, of all economic, the extreme poor, and all the way up. So we saw a lot of really interesting characters in this book, and some of them just for little short vignettes, just little kind of peering into their world for a little brief time, and then we move on. So that was interesting. It's an interesting idea for like trying to give readers a curiosity shop. I like that idea. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's just kind of my guess. The villain in this book is quite a villain. I never could really picture him as a human, though. He was always sort of like some kind of amphibious creature, or reptile, human, I don't know. And he was married, and I really, really didn't understand why, because his wife does seem, for the most part, good. And I have no idea why she married him, and yeah. And I don't know why he's so bad. Like, why is he so bad? What is driving the evil within him? Because he is a true villain, and so that was a little bit confusing, and his demise is a little surprising as well. There are some secrets in this book. There's a lot of characters who don't have names. Again, I think that affected how I felt about the book, because I am a person who, like, if I don't have a character to root for, if I don't have somebody in the book that I really, again, am vested in, then it doesn't matter. Like, the story is irrelevant because I need that in there. So that played a role, and there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of characters who we don't ever really know much about them. Sometimes we don't ever find out their name. And there's just a lot of little old gentlemen, and that gets really confusing when we get into just a section where it's just one little old gentleman after another. So yeah, I mean, I think, again, it's Dickens, so yeah, I wouldn't say don't read it. I just would say, like, it's just not my favorite, but again, I plan on reading all of them. I hope I live long enough to read all of Dickens. So, yeah, a good book, just not my favorite Dickens. If you've read it, I would love to hear what you thought about it. And I have not seen this Masterpiece Theater edition, so if that's any good, let me know as well if I should check that out. And And it was just a real joy and a real pleasure to read this book with Joe. So thank you so much, Joe, for indulging me. And I hope we'll read another Dickens together in the future. So thank you, BookTube. Remember to be kind to yourself and be kind to others. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.